Can you imagine a creature so brave, so stubborn, and so equipped that it dared to stand up to the king of the Mesozoic world himself, the dreaded Tyrannosaurus rex? In a time when one crushing jaw grip could decide life or death, there was someone in the forests of the late Cretaceous who was not just easy prey, someone who was able to resist, deliver a blow, and rewrite the story of predator and prey. While most species cowered in fear before the T-Rex, this horned giant forged its way forward with majestic calm and weaponry that could turn a predator into a victim. He was not a carnivorous titan with fangs like daggers. On the contrary, they were herbivores. But not just anyone. His appearance was so exceptional that he was mistaken for a creature of another class. Today, his remains tell a story of battles, courage, and evidence that science can no longer deny. He injured T-Rex, and he could have beaten him. A thrilling journey into a world where skulls cracked, horns dug deep into flesh, and dominance was not only a matter of sharp teeth, but also of strength of character and stamina. Get ready! The story of a creature that was not afraid to stand up to a tyrant is about to begin. At the beginning of everything, there was a mistake. And as it happens in paleontology, not just any paleontology, when the first frontal horns were found in 1887, no one knew that they were holding evidence of one of the most iconic dinosaurs ever. The eminent paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh, to whom these horns were sent, believed that they were the remains of an ancient species of bison. And so the name Bison alticornis, a bison with high horns, was created. It was only the next year that brought a turnaround. New finds of the skull, this time including the third central corner, revealed the true origin of these strange structures. It was a dinosaur, and not just anyone. Marsh realized that he was holding something unique in his hands. Although he initially insisted on separate classification, he eventually combined the original and new finds into a single category. He created a completely new genus and family, Ceratops. And so, Triceratops was born, literally a three-horned face, as its name suggests. Although the first classification was wrong, it was this mistake that opened the door to further discoveries. It was soon discovered that this herbivore was not alone. Many other species with differently shaped horns and collars belonged to the ceratopsides, and Triceratops was just the beginning. One of the most distinctive features of the Triceratops was its huge head. The skull could reach a length of up to 2.5 meters and make up about a third of the total length of the body. Its massive construction was not only an aesthetic feature, it played an important role in defense and communication. A large bone collar stretched behind the head and served as neck protection. At the same time, it could have performed a function in courtship or threats, and it is possible that its coloration played a role in intimidating predators or rivals. And then there were his three famous horns, two long ones above the eyes and one shorter one above the muzzle. Some scientists called them Pepik, Franta, and Mazca for simplicity. The length of those above the eyes could exceed 1.5 meters. It is likely that they were covered in keratin, which is the same material that makes human nails or deer antlers. This allowed them to be even longer and sharper. In combat, they could wedge into the body of an opponent, while the Triceratops could easily weigh up to 12 tons, which is more than the average T-Rex. When we look at Triceratops fossils, one thing stands out. Their skulls often bear traces of fights. Up to 14% of skulls show signs of being pierced by a horn. This suggests that these dinosaurs were not just calm herbivores, but tough rivals who could stand up to each other. Fights between males for territory, status, or females could be incredibly brutal. The horns wedged into each other, the animals pushed against each other, trying to find a weakness in the opponent's defenses. A famous case is a specimen nicknamed Big John, whose skull bears a distinct hole from the horn of another Triceratops. The injuries were so serious that they likely led to the infection that caused his death. These facts show that although Triceratops was a herbivore, it was also a very dangerous opponent that did not hesitate to use its horns against anyone, including members of its own species. When we think about who could have been the real threat to the Tyrannosaurus rex, we instinctively think of another carnivorous predator. But it was Triceratops, a calm herbivore, that turned out to be his most serious rival. The duels between these two giants must have been extremely brutal. That turned out to be his most serious rival. The duels between these two giants must have been extremely brutal. Although the Tyrannosaurus was equipped with the strongest bite the animal ever had, the Triceratops had horns, a defensive collar, and a weight that could easily flatten a predator to the ground. The most famous evidence of this clash is a fossil called fighting dinosaurs. Two individuals, a young T-Rex and an adult Triceratops, were found tangled up in each other as if fighting in the last breath of life. Analyses showed that Triceratops escaped from this clash surprisingly well. He had only superficial injuries. The T-Rex, on the other hand, suffered serious damage, a cracked skull, broken fingers, and crushed teeth. Although both died probably due to a sudden natural disaster, it is clear that the fight with the Triceratops could have been fatal for the Tyrannosaurus. In another case, a specimen known as Rex received a deep wound to the back of his thigh, typically from the horn of a ceratops, probably from behind. It could have been an ambush attack or a desperate charge at the moment of danger. In any case, the T-Rex suffered a blow that was not without consequences. Unlike other herbivores that relied on flight or camouflage, the Triceratops was different. Its evolution gave it something that few non-predators had: armament. And it was not just about passive defense. When his freedom or life was threatened, he did not hesitate to go on the offensive. Thanks to its massive body, low center of gravity, and strong limbs, it could gain great speed over a short distance. And with his head full of horns, he literally became a prehistoric battering ram. Paleontologists agree that a full-force headbutt could have caused a devastating injury, even when facing a powerful predator. In addition, the combination of a collar, horn, and rapid bone regeneration, thanks to the structure of his skull, allowed him to survive several encounters. Some fossils show bite scars that have healed completely, meaning that the Triceratops not only survived the T-Rex collision, but was able to recover from it. Therefore, scientific assumptions suggest that this was not an isolated case. Triceratops could be so dangerous that even Tyrannosaurus itself chose only weak or young individuals. In short, the adult three-horned giant was not a prey, but a serious threat. Unlike some other ceratopsids, which flocked into large herds, Triceratops most often lived alone. Fossil finds prove this, while its relatives have been found in tens or hundreds of individuals together. Triceratops remains are almost exclusively found individually. The exception was a small group of 5 individuals, including 3 minors, suggesting that it may have been a family grouping at times. But in general, this species was a loner who could get by without a herd. But that doesn't mean he's a weak link in the ecosystem. On the contrary, its fossils account for up to 69% of all dinosaur footprints in the Hell Creek Formation, making it the most widespread species of its time. Its dominance was not only due to the quantity, but above all, to its adaptability. Triceratops inhabited subtropical forests, wetlands, and rivers where they had plenty of water and food. He was a creature that had not been lost, neither physically nor in history, and its presence shaped the entire ecosystem that surrounded it. Although he is famous for his horns and skull, Triceratops was also a master of dietary adaptation. His diet consisted exclusively of plants that he obtained from the surrounding vegetation. Thanks to its strong curved beak, which resembled that of a parrot, it was able to easily break off twigs and pick leaves from harder plants. Although it could indulge in something from the higher layers of vegetation, it probably fed low to the ground most often. Its body structure suggests that it was adapted to gathering food from lower vegetation that it found near the ground. Ferns, sockets, or fallen palm leaves formed the basis of its diet. His teeth were another surprise. Unlike most herbivorous dinosaurs, the Triceratops had up to 800 teeth divided into dental batteries that were constantly renewed. Thanks to this equipment, it was able to effectively crush even very tough vegetation. His teeth grew in columns, where the old ones were automatically replaced by new ones, which allowed him to chew without restriction for the rest of his life. This adaptation made it not only an efficient herbivore, but also an animal capable of surviving in a variety of conditions where others may have failed. In addition, in his time, plants were often full of fiber and difficult to digest. Without such dental equipment, he would have had a problem surviving. Triceratops was not alone in its time. It was part of a diverse community of animals that inhabited the subtropical regions of the late Cretaceous, especially the famous Hell Creek Formation, which today covers the territory of several states in North America. The area was full of swamps, rivers, lakes, and dense forests where dinosaurs and other creatures shared space. In addition to Triceratops, there were Edmontosaurus, a hadrosaur with a duck's beak, or an armored Ankylosaurus, whose tail was literally a club. We can also find strange creatures such as Pachycephalosaurus, with a hard dome on its head, Ornithotomime running on long legs, or the mysterious Dracorex, which looks like it fell out of fantasy stories. In addition to the T-Rex, the carnivores included Troodon, a smaller but very intelligent theropod. However, there were not only dinosaurs in Hell Creek. Turtles, fish, amphibians, pterosaurs, mammals, and even crocodile-like creatures like Brachychampsa also lived here. All of these animals formed a complex food web and contributed to the ecological balance, where Triceratops played a dominant role. Triceratops was not only one of the most dominant, but also one of the last. Paleontologists agree that it lived until the very end of the Cretaceous period, when the planet was hit by a devastating asteroid. This is why it is often referred to as the youngest known dinosaur, at least among those whose remains were found in the highest layers of rock before the end of the Mesozoic era. It is possible that some Triceratops populations survived until the global catastrophe itself, which wiped out almost all large species. Imagine him moving slowly through a forest that will soon be covered in ash and death. In the last days of the existence of these titans, it remained a proud symbol of Mesozoic life. It was the culmination of the evolution of ceratopsids, strong, resistant, well-adapted. If it weren't for that fateful intervention from space, it could become an even bigger icon than it is today. Instead, he became one of the greatest heroes of his world and a symbol of courage, tenacity, and strength that does not bow to even the biggest predators. Over time, Triceratops has become one of the most iconic dinosaurs, not only because of its incredible physical equipment, but also because of the importance it has played in paleontology. Its discovery led to the creation of a completely new family of horned dinosaurs, ceratopsids, and started another wave of interest in Mesozoic herbivores. Scientists studied every detail of its anatomy, lifestyle, and ecological impact, and it is still the subject of intensive research. Its skull is one of the best preserved and most frequently analyzed fossil elements, and often serves as a basic model for comparisons with other horned dinosaurs. At the same time, the Triceratops is one of the most commonly depicted dinosaurs in popular culture. It appears in films, books, documentaries, games, and tours. Although it is often presented as a gentle giant, the reality was much more complex. His horns, strength, and courage made him a creature that could stand up to the T-Rex himself. This makes it not only a popular, but also a deservedly admired dinosaur, which rightly remains in the public memory as a symbol of determination, bravery, and unexpected strength where one might not even look for it. Despite all the facts and legends, there is a simple question: why Triceratops? Why was he the only one who injured a Tyrannosaurus? The answer lies in a combination of factors. He was a giant with extraordinary weight, height, and strength. It had horns that were not just for decoration, but also used as deadly weapons. His skull was huge, hard, and shielded. Its teeth and beak were designed for durability and its body for endurance. But what perhaps played the biggest role was his mentality. The Triceratops wasn't just a defensive creature waiting for fate. He was a fighter. In a moment of danger, he did not hesitate to attack. And it was this courage, combined with all its physical advantages, that made Triceratops the only true rival that Tyrannosaurus could fear. Fossil evidence confirms this. Broken jaws, crushed teeth, and cracked bones of tyrannosaurs speak for themselves. When the two met, it wasn't just a battle. It was a clash of titans that made Triceratops indelibly in history as the only creature that could actually hurt a Triceratops. Not only did the Triceratops leave a mark on history by standing up to the T-Rex, but it also played a vital role in how we view herbivores in general today. For a long time, they were perceived as passive, defensive, and mostly defenseless creatures trying to survive in a world full of predators. But it was Triceratops that disrupted this image. He showed that herbivores can be strong, resilient, and actively defend themselves, even attack. Thanks to it, scientists began to reassess the role of other herbivorous dinosaurs in the food chain and in the ecosystem in general. Triceratops was proof that survival wasn't just about escaping. Sometimes it was better to face the threat head-on, and with a horn. His story inspires not only paleontologists, but also viewers, readers, and fans around the world. And above all, it shows that even those who don't look like a hero at first glance can become one. All they have to do is have enough courage and a proper weapon on their head. Although we already know a lot about Triceratops, his story is still not complete. Every year, new research brings more pieces to this giant puzzle. Modern technologies, such as CT scans of fossils or 3D modeling, allow us to look inside his bones and reveal details that were previously hidden. For example, the microstructure of its horns, or the precise arrangement of the muscles of the skull and cervical region. This gives us a better understanding of exactly how he fought, moved, or grew throughout his life. It is also possible that new species of Triceratopsids will emerge that will shift our view of the evolution of this group. It is also possible that other specimens, such as fighting dinosaurs, will be found, which will offer further evidence of collisions with the T-Rex. In short, science is far from having said the last word, and Triceratops, this silent titan with horns like spears, remains in the spotlight, both scientific and lay. And this is perhaps the greatest proof of its power. Even millions of years after its extinction, it still manages to fascinate and inspire. Despite its prehistoric form, the Triceratops evokes something very human in us. Maybe it's his unyielding defense, which we perceive as courage. Perhaps his ability to stand up to the stronger as a reminder that it's not just about size or strength, but also about character. Or is it his quiet presence in the landscape, the way he moved in the forest, independently, with dignity, and ready to defend himself at any time? In the eyes of the public, he has become a symbol of a calm protector, someone who does not impose himself, but knows how to stand up for himself and his loved ones. In addition, its appearance looks very expressive. With its 3 horns, massive skull, and distinctive carapace, it almost seems as if it had a face that could express emotion, threat, calmness, or curiosity. This may have contributed to his popularity. It isn't just a skeleton in a museum, but a real animal. That is one of the few that has remained inscribed in the human imagination as something more than a fossil. In pop culture, he has become the face of horned giants, and in a story of survival and bravery, one of the greatest heroes of the Mesozoic world. There is a deeper meaning in the story of the clash between the Triceratops and the T-Rex than just the fight between two dinosaurs. It is a clash of two principles: aggression and defense, strength and stability, chaos and balance. The T-Rex was the personification of raw power. The most powerful killer Triceratops, on the other hand, was calm but persistent. When the time came, it turned into a tank that couldn't be easily broken. Their encounter shows us that survival does not belong only to the most offensive. Sometimes the winner is the one who is better prepared, and especially the one who is willing to defend himself, even if he has no teeth. This symbolic duel is timeless, not only in nature, but also in human society. It reminds us that heroism can take many forms, and that the one who looks like prey can turn out to be an opponent who cannot be conquered. That's what makes the story of Triceratops so powerful. It's universal. And when we look back to the Mesozoic era, we see that bravery and strength of character are values that have endured over millions of years. Generations of children and adults around the world know the name Triceratops. But it's not just because of his cute or imposing appearance, it's because of his story. She is a character who is not afraid, who can stand her ground, who inspires. At a time when people are more likely to ask who was the strongest, perhaps the question should be different. Who was the bravest? Triceratops shows that true power doesn't have to be screamed, just and firm. Thanks to his history, equipment, and role in Mesozoic nature, he became an immortal hero, and deservedly so. Triceratops is not just a fossil. It's not just a skull in a museum or a prop from a movie. It is a window into the past. Thanks to it, we better understand life in the Cretaceous period, coexistence of species, evolution of defense and predation. Paleontologists use his story to demonstrate the principles of science: mistakes, discoveries, new hypotheses, but above all, a perseverance in the search for truth. All this makes Triceratops not only an interesting species, but also a scientific icon. And for the rest of us, it is a symbol that even those who seem calm can be incredibly strong. It shows us that history is not just about ancient events. It is about stories that still resonate today. Triceratops stay alive in textbooks, minds, hearts. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you enjoy dinosaurs, subscribe and watch more stories from prehistory. Your interest helps me create more episodes full of fascinating discoveries.